never forget you, Gerardo. Boy, I sure am gonna miss Ronaldo, but I'm glad I'm finally an American again.
Padre de Familia. So, imagine Peter Griffin, decked out in a red, white, and blue suit so loud it could wake up George Washington, pacing around Quahog, preaching about how illegal immigration is the root of all evil. Yep, this is peak Peter doing his own version of patriotic cosplay.
Good morning, my American family.
Peter, where did you get that suit?
My God, you look like the Statue of Liberty's pimp.
The man goes full-blown Statue of Liberty's pimp mode, convinced that outsiders are stealing jobs, ruining traditions, and maybe even hoarding the good Pop-Tarts. But then, the truth smacks him in the face harder than one of Lois's frying pans. Turns out Peter isn't even American. His birth certificate? Non-existent. He was born in Mexico after his mom took a little trip down south for, well, not so happy reasons. Suddenly, the wall he wanted to build crumbles like a stale Pop-Tart. After losing his job, failing to prove his marriage is real, and basically having the stars and stripes yanked out from under him, Peter lands a gig at Carter's mansion as a servant. Oh, and let's not sugarcoat it. Carter basically turns him into his personal punching bag. But through this ridiculous journey, Peter starts to connect with the very immigrants he once villainized. He joins their Cinco de Mayo celebration, stands up to Carter when he tries to shut the party down, and even demands citizenship, not just for himself, but for the whole community. Sure, the others tell him to take the deal and wait their turn, but for one shiny moment, Peter Griffin is a selfless, tequila-fueled revolutionary. He gets his papers, hugs his new friends goodbye, and maybe, just maybe, learns that being American isn't about where you're born, but how you treat the people around you.
Never forget you, Gerardo. Boy, I sure am gonna miss Ronaldo, but I'm glad I'm finally an American again.
Death lives. Now here's Peter at his most Peter, skipping out on his anniversary with Lois to play golf. Because nothing says I love you like sending your wife on a wild scavenger hunt so you can hit the green with the boys. But karma, as always, arrives with a 9-iron to the face. Or in this case, a lightning bolt. Mid-swing, Peter gets zapped and wakes up dead. Enter Death, the literal Grim Reaper, who decides to give Peter the old Christmas Carol treatment. He shows Peter what Lois's life would have been like if he kept being, well, him. Spoiler alert, it ends with Peter taking his own life after a rough divorce. Pretty dark for a cartoon, huh? But that's the thing. For all the jokes and pratfalls, this episode sneaks in a surprisingly real moment.
What are you doing? You can't get in that way.
I'm sure as hell not going in the back door.
Peter sees just how much Lois has always been there for him, even when he didn't deserve it. So, what does he do when he gets a second chance? He pulls off the kind of romantic gesture that only Family Guy could deliver, hiring Peter Frampton to serenade Lois with "Baby, I Love Your Way." For once, Peter nails the anniversary, and in that absurd, over-the-top Griffin way, he kind of redeems himself. Let's go to the hop. Teenagers licking hallucinogenic toads, a high school that turns into something between a rave and a biology experiment gone wrong. What's a concerned dad to do? If you're Peter Griffin, you go undercover. Not as a teacher, not as a counselor. No. You become Lando Griffin.
Hey, you got a date? Oh, wait till I tell your mother. Who I'm looking forward to meeting.
A leather jacket-wearing, jukebox-punching, toad-stopping legend with the swagger of the Fonz and the logic of a broken Magic 8 ball, Lando quickly becomes the coolest kid in school. Because nothing screams cool like a grown man infiltrating a high school with 0 credentials. But here's where the ridiculous becomes kind of awesome. Peter convinces the entire school that licking toads is for losers. No PTA meeting, no school board drama, just sheer chaotic influence. And somehow, it works. Then comes the Meg problem. She gets her hopes up, thinking she's finally getting her Cinderella moment with a prom date. But Peter, basking in Lando's fake high school fame, ditches her. Cue the heartbreak. Cue the motherly intervention. Cue Lois forbidding Peter from going to the dance. He goes anyway. But at the snowball dance, when Peter and Queen Bee Connie are crowned king and queen, Peter makes a move no one saw coming. He takes the mic and publicly declares Meg as his real first choice. A cheesy, dramatic, and totally unexpected moment of dad heroism. Meg's social life skyrockets for like 10 minutes, Lando rides off into the night, and Peter, well, he goes back to being Peter, but this time with just a touch more heart. Ready, willing, and disabled. Joe Swanson's having a rough time. After failing to catch a thief at a charity car wash, the guy falls into a slump that could put even Eeyore to shame. And who steps in to help? Peter, of course. Which, let's be honest, usually spells disaster. Peter decides to train Joe for the Special People's Games, which is exactly as politically incorrect and chaotic as it sounds. His training method? A mix of stolen steroids, inspirational quotes about George W. Bush, and more shouting than a boot camp run by toddlers. But surprisingly, it works. Joe wins. The crowd goes wild. He gets a movie deal. Peter even stars in it, sort of, until jealousy kicks in. See, Peter doesn't love being portrayed as the lazy slob who dragged Joe down. So what does he do? He fakes a disability and tries to ride the sympathy train straight to fame. Obviously, that backfires. Hard. He ends up outing Joe for the steroid use, which Peter himself caused, and Joe loses everything. But as always, Family Guy hits the reset button in a way only they can. Joe redeems himself by catching the original thief, and Peter, despite causing a mess, was at least trying to lift his friend up in the beginning. A hot mess of moral ambiguity? Yes, but with a weirdly noble core.
Say, what happened to the car wash thief?
Ironically, I severed his spine when I landed on him.
Road to Rupert. Peter loses his driver's license after a wild Evel Knievel-style stunt turns Quahog into a demolition derby. Now grounded, both literally and by Lois, he's stuck relying on Meg to be his personal chauffeur. You can imagine how thrilled she is. At first, it's miserable for both. Peter barks orders, complains about everything, and treats Meg like she's nothing more than an Uber with bad reviews. But then, something unexpected happens. During a fender bender, the other driver mouths off, and Meg, fed up with life, school, and her dad, snaps. She lays the guy out with a beatdown that would make Liam Neeson proud. Peter watches in shock. For the first time, he doesn't see Meg as the family punchline. He sees her as someone strong, someone impressive, someone kind of badass. From there, they start bonding, pulling pranks, causing chaos, becoming an unlikely duo of father-daughter destruction. And when Peter finally gets his license back, Meg worries it's all over. But Peter, in a rare moment of genuine emotion, tells her she's not just his chauffeur, she's his best friend. The kind of sweet line that makes the audience go, "Aw," right before he does something stupid again. Classic Griffin energy.
I want is a fresh glass of better dirty.
Hey,
Peter, caviar eater. When Lois inherits her aunt's mansion, the Griffins dive headfirst into upper-class life. Peter, of course, becomes instantly obsessed with the lifestyle. Fancy dinners, posh accents, and getting kicked out of yacht clubs before dessert. He even sells their house in Quahog without telling Lois, because why not?
Can't believe they kicked me out of the yacht club. I barely had time to stuff Lois's salmon in my jacket.
Face it, Peter, you have a knack for saying the wrong thing.
Peter tries hard to fit in with Newport's high society, but it's like watching a bear in a tuxedo try to perform ballet. Enter Brian, attempting to teach him etiquette with shock collars, humiliation, and enough red wine to kill a moose. At first it works. Peter blends in just enough to survive an elite auction, until he accidentally bids $100 million on a vase. Cue meltdown. But instead of running away or doubling down on his lies, Peter finds a way out. He uncovers old photos proving the mansion was once a brothel visited by historical figures like Abraham Lincoln. Armed with scandalous proof, he sells the story to the tabloids, makes enough to buy back their old house, and sticks it to the snobs who look down on him. He learns nothing, of course, but he saves the day in his own Peter Griffin way.
'Cause all that's important is that I love you.
No, because your ancestors were nothing but a bunch of pimps and whores.
Turkey guys, Thanksgiving is around the corner, and the Griffin house is chaos. Lois, in full holiday panic mode, sends Peter and Brian to pick up a replacement turkey after Peter ruins the first one. What follows is a disaster-filled road trip across Quahog.
Decide who gets to ride in the cart and who has to push it.
Well, I'm smaller, so...
The decision has been made.
From crashing a car into a pond, to losing their turkey to a shady hitchhiker, to getting kicked out of every store in town, it's one misstep after another. Typical Peter and Brian mayhem, but then, in the middle of a zoo break-in,
Break into the zoo, steal a turkey, bring it home. We're heroes.
Brian falls into the lion pit, and Peter, for all his nonsense and selfishness, jumps in to save him, with a flamingo. Yeah, that happened. It's a moment of real heroism. Ridiculous? Sure, but Peter puts himself in danger to save his friend, proving that under all the bluster and buffoonery, there's a guy who really cares. They make it home just in time, and Peter? He decides not to kill the turkey. Compassion wins, until Chris shows up with a shotgun and ends the moment with one trigger pull. Welcome to Thanksgiving, Griffin style. Portrait of a dog. Summer hits Quahog with a heat wave, and Peter, determined to get an air conditioner, enters Brian into a dog show. The prize? $500. Brian, ever the intellectual, hates the idea of being paraded around like a circus act, but he agrees. Anything to help the family.
Okay, let's go over the commands. Sit.
The tricks don't go well, and Peter pushes him too far. Brian snaps, walks away, and decides he's done with being treated like a second-class citizen. The fallout is real. Brian ends up homeless, alone, and eventually arrested for defending himself. He's sentenced to be put down. Suddenly, Peter realizes what he's lost. Not a pet, a friend. And he scrambles to save Brian, showing up in court and making an emotional plea. Okay, sure. He also bribes the jury with $20 bills, but the point is, he tries.
Dear MacGyver, enclosed is a rubber band, a paper clip, and a drinking straw. Please save my dog.
Brian comes home, the violent kitten replacement gets the boot, and the Griffin family is whole again. Peter's methods are questionable, but his heart, surprisingly solid. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite animated chaos, and smash that bell icon so you never miss a moment of madness. Got a favorite Peter moment we missed? Drop it in the comments. We'll see you there.